Hello beautiful people, this is Dawn, your tarot teacher here. Join me now as we continue our learning journey with the card of Judgment. The card of Judgment represents spiritual awakening and activation and is a call to service. This is where we move beyond our personal story and begin serving something larger than ourselves. It is about serving humanity, serving the evolution of consciousness and participating in the creation of a new earth. Like a phoenix rising from the ashes, the old identity is burned away and something fundamentally transformed rises in its place. This is the regenerated self reborn, and that is why this card has the esoteric title of the Spirit of Primal Fire. Primal fire is the activating force in alchemy. Fire destroys form, but it also releases essence. And in psychological terms, this is the burning away of outdated self-concepts. In energetic terms, it can relate to Kundalini activation, the release of stored spiritual potential into our energetic body. This card is occasionally referred to as the Last Judgment. It's a card of completion, decision, or termination. It signifies the final state of personal consciousness, with the subsequent stage, the card of the World, being described as cosmic consciousness. So this card can mark the end of a karmic cycle, or it can be a major decision point in your life, or a termination of an outdated identity. And after this stage, consciousness begins orienting toward the universal rather than the personal. The numerology of this card is 20, which symbolizes resurrection, rebirth, regeneration, spiritual awakening, a new life purpose, and expanded psychic capacity. The number 2 represents the High Priestess card and the realms of the subconscious, while the 0 represents the Fool card and the superconsciousness. And here we see these two qualities combined. Adding 2 and 0 together, of course, brings us back to 2, suggesting that the High Priestess is an inner aspect of the Judgment card. She is the mother of matter, or the prima materia. And in Key 20, this marks another threshold of the 0, signifying a new rebirth. This process rises an octave as we enter into the 20s, centering on subconsciousness, which is now illuminated by the light of the preceding card, which was the sun. In Kabbalah and the Tree of Life, the Judgment card is associated with Path 31, which connects the Spirot of Hod, which is splendor, to Malkut, the sphere of the kingdom. This path is sometimes referred to as the perpetual intelligence and symbolizes the journey from intellectual understanding to the physical manifestation of spirit. And in this context, Judgment represents the awakening and liberation of the soul from the confines of material existence, echoing the card's themes of rebirth, transformation, and ascension. The Hebrew letter associated with the Judgment card is Shin, which means tooth or fire, and Shin symbolizes transformation and divine energy. The element of fire is central to the Judgment card and represents purification, renewal, and the burning away of old forms to release new essence. Shin's connection to spiritual transformation echoes this card's themes of awakening and rebirth, guiding us to embrace profound change and step into a higher level of consciousness. Now let's take a closer look at the imagery of this card. An angel appears in the sky filled with scattered clouds, blowing a trumpet adorned with an equal-armed cross. Below we can see coffins float on water as men, women and children rise from them with outstretched arms. Their grey colour represents balanced polarities, indicating spiritual, not physical transformation. It is the lessons of the previous cards all combined and integrated here. The angel represented here is Archangel Gabriel, who embodies both water and divine breath. Gabriel's blue robe symbolises this connection, and it also symbolises the stream of consciousness originating from the High Priestess. Cosmic fire acting on water produces air and the essence of breath. Sound operates on a 7-note scale, reflected by the 7 lines radiating from the angel's trumpet, which uses vibration for liberation. These 7 tones resonate with the body's 7 energy centers or chakra system through sympathetic vibration. So this is a subtle nod here to really working with your spiritual apparatus. The equal cross seen on both the banner on the trumpet and the high priestess's chest symbolises salvation. The cross is sometimes called the Greek cross and is a universal symbol with deep spiritual significance. It represents balance, harmony, and the intersection of material and spiritual realms. And in the context of the Judgment card, its presence on the angel's trumpet's banner and the high priestess's chest points to salvation, signifying the union and reconciliation of opposites, spirit and matter, conscious and subconscious. The cross also marks the meeting point of the four elements, suggesting wholeness and completion, aligning with the card's theme of resurrection and spiritual awakening. Additionally, the equal-armed cross strongly evokes Rosicrucian symbolism. The Rosicrucian tradition and mystical movement emerging in Europe in the early 17th century, but its lineage goes back much further, uses the cross as a central motif, often combined with a rose. The rose cross represents the unfolding of spiritual wisdom, the transformative journey, and the attainment of enlightenment. The cross on the Judgment card is reminiscent of these esoteric teachings, indicating that the process depicted is not merely personal, but also initiatory, echoing the Rosicrucian ideals of spiritual rebirth and salvation through inner alchemy. Thus, the equal cross serves as both a symbol of salvation and a nod to mystical traditions, particularly Rosicrucianism, emphasising the card's deeper message of transformation, awakening, and unity. The rectangular coffins reflected here are our limited 3D perspective of reality, an illusion tied to our old personality. As we move beyond this, our true self then emerges, rising to higher levels of consciousness like a butterfly from its chrysalis, transitioning from 3D to 4D reality and beyond. Humanity right now is considered to be in a shift where masses of individuals are experiencing awakening and ascension, indicating a shift in collective consciousness and the progression of humanity toward a higher realm that is regarded as an inevitable transition. This card represents healing, awakening, spiritualization, and the strength of an enlightened mind. So we see that the final 7 cards of the hero's journey move from the darkness of the devil to the ever-increasing light as the journey continues. The Judgment card represents choice and spiritual growth, signalling a merging of personal and universal consciousness. It embodies karma, cause and effect, and the energy to fulfill our purpose, freeing us from limitations as we rise to our multidimensional selves. This awareness brings liberation and deepens our connection with ourselves and the universe. As already mentioned, this card's esoteric title is The Spirit of Primal Fire, representing primal fire as the activating force behind universal alchemy. The planetary correspondence of this card is Pluto, which co-rules Scorpio, and the 8th house of sex, symbolising power, death and rebirth. As Lord of the Underworld, Pluto's influence is felt by all when it forms aspects, and its orbit represents transformation, as it's frozen when distant from the sun, and thawed out and alive as it nears the sun. Unlike the Death card, which is deeply personal, Judgment has a collective dimension. Multiple figures rise together, and this suggests group awakening, generational shifts, and collective transformation. So this card appears when someone's growth is no longer solely about their own healing, but about contribution and service. The core meanings of this card are a decisive turning point, release from personal and generational karmic ties, awakening to purpose, a call to higher service, integration of subconscious material, and a major life review. It often asks, are you ready to step into the next level of consciousness? In shadow, Judgment can demonstrate judgment, harsh criticism, self-condemnation, fear of consequences, avoiding the call of service, and inertia after awakening. The card becomes distorted when awareness arises but action does not follow. Judgment marks the moment when personal consciousness stands on the threshold of the universal. It is not the end of the journey, it is the decision to rise. And so the Fool has met with Judgment and heard the call of Annunciation. Having faced this moment of reckoning, the Fool stands renewed, carrying the lessons of awakening and courage to embrace change. No longer weighed down by self-doubt or fear, they step forward with clarity, ready to accept the fullness of the journey. As they move forward, the Fool catches sight of the world archetype shimmering in the distance, a promise of completion and wholeness that lies ahead. Though they have not yet reached this final destination, they sense the unity and fulfillment it represents, inspiring them to continue the journey with anticipation and step out once more. Join me next as we step into the card of the world.